Minnesota is a place of contrasts. It has temperature extremes, forests and prairies, uplands and flatlands. From it, water flows south to the Gulf of Mexico and north to the Arctic Ocean. It's seen history both tragic and beautiful. This is the story of Minnesota. The first writings of the land, now called Minnesota, come from 17th century explorers sent by France. These travelers were the farthest ripples of events an ocean away, great kingdoms competing for global empire. One of the first was Father Louis Hennepin, a missionary. Hennepin had set out in 1680 to scout the upper Mississippi when he was attacked and captured by a Dakota war party, along with his two companions. The captives were brought deep into Dakota territory, passing the only major waterfalls on the Mississippi River. Hennepin named them the Falls of St. Anthony. According to his diary, the Dakota thought his prayers were spells and they discussed killing them. They chose rather to cultivate friendship in hopes of becoming trading partners with France. The party approached Lake Mille Lacs, a center point of the Dakota people. There, Hennepin was gifted a beaverskin coat and treated to a rejuvenating steam bath, complete with a massage with wildcat oil. Hennepin wrote about his experiences in a book that became a bestseller. His descriptions captivated European readers, bringing into international awareness the land and people of Minnesota. There dwelled the Dakota Nation, made up of 7 tribes or council fires. The Ojibwe also were beginning to join them in Minnesota from farther east. The two peoples lived by the seasons. In the spring, they made maple syrup and maple sugar, planted gardens in the summer, and gathered wild rice in the late summer, then spread out into hunting parties in the fall and winter. One French explorer called the Dakota the nation of the beef for their use of buffalo hides. The more nomadic Ojibwe relied less on farming than on hunting year-round, and they developed skills crafting with birch bark. In the 1700s, the Ojibwe arrived in greater numbers, taking advantage of the abundance of furs which they traded to the French. Clans from these two nations, though, increasingly clashed, and the Dakota finally retreated to southern Minnesota. In the 7 Years' War, the British took over Canada and the fur trade. Under this new management, the business of the fur trade only got better, especially at Grand Portage, the great commercial hub run by the Northwest Company. For the Native Americans of the North, the British Northwest Company was the Amazon of the 18th century, and fur was the currency with which they purchased goods from the wider world like guns and pots. From the headquarters on Lake Superior, hardy wilderness men carried 2 to 3 90-pound packs over a 9-mile portage to the Pigeon River, bypassing the unnavigable waterfalls downstream. This allowed them near continuous canoe access to trading posts far to the west. Under the Northwest Company, Grand Portage saw 70% of the world fur trade pass through at its height in the 1780s and 90s. After the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, most of modern-day Minnesota was now claimed by the United States. In 1805, the same time that Lewis and Clark reached the Pacific, Lieutenant Zebulon Pike led the first U.S. expedition into Minnesota and raised the American flag there for the first time. "14 years later, the U.S. built a fort on land he purchased for the government to begin the process of regulating rogue fur traders. Called Fort Snelling, it was an imposing castle in the wilderness. holding the strategic point where the Mississippi and the Minnesota rivers meet. It was diamond-shaped, defensible from all sides. Its soldiers cultivated hundreds of acres and cleared the surrounding area of trees for firewood. They built the first mills in Minnesota, just upriver at St. Anthony's Falls. The post had the state's first hospital, school, and circulating library. A symbol of permanence, the fort brought civilization to Minnesota for the first time. In 1837, the Dakota and Ojibwe concluded treaties ceding their lands east of the Mississippi. Following this, Minnesota's first pioneer towns emerged. The first was Mendota, originally called St. Peter, built just across the Minnesota River from Fort Snelling. It grew up by an existing fur trading post managed by Henry Sibley. A partner in Astor's American Fur Company, the 23-year-old Sibley arrived in 1834, attracted to Minnesota more by the wild game than the business. Sibley's house in Mendota is the oldest stone dwelling in Minnesota. 5 miles downriver, pioneers built a town known as Pig's Eye after its first citizen, a shady tavern owner with one blind eye and a porcine appearance. The community decided to rebrand itself, choosing the name St. Paul, the complementary apostle to nearby St. Peter. Many of the first English speakers in Minnesota were Yankees from New England, many being lumbermen here to harvest trees in the pinery, vast stretches of forest rich in buoyant white pine trees. The logs were driven downriver, many to the Falls of St. Anthony. Mills lined the falls, harnessing its immense energy and turning Minneapolis and St. Anthony on either side of the falls into boom towns. An innovative suspension bridge built in 1855 linked both sides at Hennepin Avenue, the first permanent bridge across the Mississippi. As pioneers built these settlements, Wisconsin Territory prepared for statehood, and leaders in Madison hoped to claim land all the way to the Mississippi River, where St. Paul was emerging. Simple on the surface, this issue was electric for the citizens of St. Paul and the loggers of the St. Croix Valley, who didn't want in. Instead of being relegated to a distant frontier of Wisconsin, they wanted to play a central role in their own state. Congress saw how a Wisconsin that stretched all the way to St. Paul would deny the next territory of its most promising population center. Thus, after discussion, it approved a border that limited Wisconsin to the St. Croix River. Now left out of the new state, settlers west of the St. Croix were eager to form a territory of their own, the first step to joining the Republic for themselves. So Henry Sibley went to Washington to encourage Congress to create the next territory as soon as possible. And the settlers' wish was granted. By Sibley's requests, the new territory would be called Minnesota after its key river, and the capital placed at the now respectably named St. Paul. For territorial governor, President Taylor appointed not Sibley, not even a Minnesotan, but someone from his own Whig party, Alexander Ramsey. In 1851, Governor Ramsey and Henry Sibley led negotiations which persuaded the Dakota to sign away most of their lands for about 7 cents an acre and draw back to tracts along the Minnesota River. Satisfied at first, the Dakota later discovered that they had signed another document sneaked in after the treaty papers, one that said they'd pay debts of individual Indians to fur traders like Sibley. The Dakota felt betrayed, and their anger would erupt, but not for another decade, when Sibley would personally have to deal with the consequences of the maltreatment of the Dakota. The Ojibwe also ceded territory, but kept some of their most cherished locations. These cessions opened Minnesota to an explosion of settlers that quickly transformed the land. By 1857, the territory had reached 150,000 people and was ready to begin the drive for statehood. Amidst the high temperature of national politics over the issue of slavery, Minnesota was admitted in 1858 as the 32nd state in the Union. Sibley narrowly defeated Ramsey to become the first state governor. Having joined the Union, within 3 years, Minnesota was fighting to hold the states together. In April 1861, news came of the outbreak of war with the South, and Governor Ramsey volunteered Minnesotans as the first soldiers of the Civil War. But far removed from the great battles of that conflict, Minnesota had a war of its own. One August afternoon in 1862, an Indian and a white settler got into a heated dispute about some eggs. The fight boiled over into the murder of the settler and his neighbors. Seeing a line had been crossed, a war contingent reluctantly led by Little Crow took this as a chance to fight back against unjust treatment by the government. They took Minnesota completely by surprise. Attacking the Lower Sioux Agency and smashing a small force sent against them, warriors spread out over the countryside, killing hundreds of settlers. Then they turned to Fort Ridgely. The Indians launched several attacks against the fort, but failing to capture it, regrouped for an assault on the town of New Ulm, left vulnerable as many men were off fighting the Confederacy. The German citizens could hear the thundering cannons defending the fort and desperately barricaded the town. Within the precincts was a Dr. Mayo who set up a hospital area for casualties. The attackers closed in and fighting commenced on all sides. After 2 days, the defenders decided to abandon New Ulm and evacuate the 2,000 people to Mankato. Despite the fear of a massacre, the retreat was successful. When word of the uprising reached St. Paul, Governor Ramsey sent Henry Sibley leading 1,400 militiamen. While Sibley was still trying to organize, the costliest engagement of the conflict was fought at Birch Coulee, where Indians ambushed a burial expedition. The survivors were then besieged for 30 hours before Sibley arrived with an overwhelming force. Sickened by the high casualties, Sibley asked to be relieved. Governor Ramsey rejected him. Sibley went on to drive out Little Crow's main force from Minnesota. Almost 500 settlers had been murdered, and the aftermath was also terrible. 38 of the Dakota fighters were executed, the largest mass execution in U.S. history, and many more died in forced relocations which followed, ending with a scattering of the Dakota Nation. Even during these grim years, the population of Minnesota rose with shocking speed. In 1850, Minnesota Territory had 6,000 people. By 1900, that number had multiplied by a factor of 300, closing in on 2 million. Many were of Northern European origin, from families looking to reset their life circumstances. collectively, Scandinavians were the largest group. There are some who believe Scandinavians lived in Minnesota as early as the Middle Ages, based on the claimed discovery of a large rune stone. Whether authentic or a hoax, the stone is a great piece of Minnesota lore. The largest single nationality was from Germany, which brought traditions of Lutheranism, Catholicism, and free thinking. The oldest surviving church in St. Paul is the Romanesque Church of the Assumption, built for the German population of the capital. New Ulm showed its German heritage in the 1890s with the Hermann Monument, a sculpture of the Germanic warrior famed for defeating 3 Roman legions. The St. Scholastica Monastery in Duluth traces back to German Benedictines. The Irish also gained a large presence. St. Paul's visionary Archbishop John Ireland was the chief force behind arguably Minnesota's 2 most magnificent structures. James J. Hill was a Canadian who worked his way up to become a railroad tycoon. Timing well with the rise of Andrew Carnegie, Hill used steel in all his new railroads. Hill built the Great Northern Railway, the transcontinental railroad of the North, known for being the best constructed railway to cross the West. When Minnesota first became a state, it produced little food. But railroads were game changers for the fertile West, linking it to the outside. Settlers pushed out onto Minnesota's challenging prairies and found that once the prairie sod was broken, growing wheat was relatively easy and profitable on the world market. Despite sub-zero winters, plagues of grasshoppers, and rampant fungi, wheat production endured. Minneapolis had long been milling timber. Now the city embraced flour milling, and through Cadwallader Washburn, it revolutionized flour milling technology. His mills perfected new process flour, an innovation using air blasts to separate the bran, which mass-produced high-quality white flour from spring wheat. This technique spread, along with other flour milling innovations. In the 1880s, Minneapolis became the world's leading flour producer. Sitting on the far western end of the Great Lakes, Duluth also became an industrial hub. After a sudden rise, the city's population crashed along with the stock market in 1873. Iron had been discovered in the Vermilion Range to the north, though it was far too remote to be profitable. Until a new surge in demand for iron to build railroads helped Duluth reignite. Companies mined deeply in the Vermilion Range, especially in the Sudan Iron Mine, Minnesota's oldest mine. Built in 1908, the Glensheen Mansion testifies to the prosperity of iron mining. Lighthouses guided ships on Lake Superior to pick up iron, lumber, and wheat in Duluth. In the nearby Mesabi Range, the Merritt brothers, known as Duluth's 7 Ironmen, spent nearly all their money looking for iron. After total failure to find any embedded in the rock, they realized that the red dirt they were walking on was actually a rich, soft form of iron, easily accessible in open-pit mines. They soon found themselves rich, famous, and confident enough to reject a buyout offer from John D. Rockefeller. So naturally, Rockefeller destroyed them. He craftily gave them a loan they ultimately couldn't pay back, and the Iron Men walked away with nothing but happy memories. Back in the Dakota War of 1862, Dr. William Worrell Mayo had been present at the Battle of New Ulm, leading a makeshift hospital for casualties. This spirit of boldness defined his practice and that of his two sons, and brought the Sisters of St. Francis to ask them to take the lead in a new hospital in Rochester, Minnesota. Building a reputation for innovation, the Mayo doctors became rock stars in the medical world, and their institution grew. Currently employing an astonishing 40,000 people in their Rochester campus alone, the Mayo Clinic is one of the world's great medical organizations. While Minnesota has similarities to the places around it, it has a character all its own. Tourists are drawn to its lakes and well-preserved natural beauty, and enjoy its historical and cultural richness. Minnesota has shown an ambition for greatness, well represented in Governor Sibley's choice for state motto, Star of the North.